Hi, and welcome to the Spiritable podcast. On this episode, we have on Karen.
Hi there, I'm Karen. I don't know what to call myself, so I use mystic. I'm also a spiritual teacher.
Nice.
Yeah, so today we talked about Karen's experiences with her psychic visions and connection with spirits. We talked about some of her philosophy, how her religion matches with her psychic experience, about angels, and about the afterlife and reincarnation.
Get into it. Hi, I'm Luke.
I'm Richard.
And this is the Spiritable podcast.
We're having conversations about big spiritual, moral, and social issues in hopefully a more grounded way.
We talk a lot from the religious philosophy of this guy, Emanuel Swedenborg, and our own twist on Christianity. Check out episode 9 for more on that.
But of course, we don't have all the answers, so we like to bring on guests with their own philosophies.
Muslim, Jewish, Buddhist, atheist, etc.
To help get new perspectives and to challenge each other's beliefs.
Everyone has some relationship with spirituality, but for some dumb reason it can be hard to talk about.
And everyone's experience with life is going to be a little different, and that's what makes it so interesting.
So, thanks for joining us on Spiritable. All right, thank you guys for joining us on this episode. Richard ate it on his scooter and messed up his whole leg.
So as you can see, I have this lovely injury on my foot, if you can see it.
I helped with the gauze. Is it the same stuff or is it new stuff?
No, I've changed it
anyway, that's not interesting. We also had some vacation time we needed to do, blah, blah, blah. So let's roll into it here. We have our friend Karen. Can I say friend? Ben yelled at me for saying friend before.
I was just watching
the episode. I can say friend. Everyone's a friend.
We have our good, bestest friend here, Karen.
Usually you double down on the friend thing. Our good friend.
I like to.
Buddy pal.
One of my favorite things in life is to try to create a good relationship as fast as possible with someone. I think there's so much joy in that, being like, hey, you're a person, I'm a person, let's be best friends as soon as we can. I just think there's something powerful about that, so maybe I'm more quick than others to be like, dear friend.
You're very cute, and I also like to make fun of you for it.
Fair enough. Anyway, we are here with our friend, just friend, we won't go dear friend,
That's okay.
Karen, to talk about tarot cards and maybe misconceptions around that, and maybe some self-help that can come along with tarot card readings. So, Karen, if you want to give some background to yourself and how you came to be in this seat, that'd be great.
Boy. Well, you guys called me. That's how I came to be in the seat.
True.
Actually, I've been an intuitive or psychic for my entire life. I started out what people call normal. I worked in regular jobs. I worked for big corporations. I did accounting work. I've done human resource work, all of that stuff. But there was a stronger part of me that was always trying to get out. And finally, I would have dreams that would come true, different things like that occur. And I went to see a psychic. So I've been to see psychics before, but I went to see this one person, and she said, oh, they talk to you. And I thought, oh, somebody can see that. How does she know that I get messages? I don't know how else to put it. And then I started really studying. And I started studying because I saw how many people kind of get rooked by, at least they did. Now it's a much more open field than it was then. Nobody grew up and wanted to be a psychic in my day. Now everybody wants to be one, or a medium or something like that. But I started to learn, and I studied a lot. I studied for 11 years straight, a bunch of different occult subjects, spiritual subjects, got deeper in my religion with it. And one of the first things I learned was tarot, because tarot helps you kind of focus your intuition without getting all over the place. And it was something that people understand. It was something that people had heard about. I found that if I just went somewhere to do readings, they call them readings, if I just went somewhere to do readings and didn't have cards and just started talking to people, they got scared. Or they, literally.
So maybe it was a nice in-between sort of.
It's something that brings the client some ease because they're familiar with it. And it's something that also, as a psychic, you can focus on. If you have cards in front of you, you're looking here instead of, the guy that's jumping over there or something else that's going on. It helps you to focus and really connect.
Interesting. So you've used this word intuition a couple of times. I'm wondering if we have the same operating term for intuition you know, as we know, intuition is just, you know, kind of a gut feeling,
Yes.
maybe a consciousness playing into it to tell you to do something, or maybe this is a good decision, or maybe that's not a great idea. Is that kind of
Yes.
how intuition operates for you?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And it's about paying more attention. I find that using these tools, I call tarot a tool, helps you to focus. And everybody's psychic, everybody's intuitive, everybody kind of knows things. And it's when you pay attention to that knowing that you actually are able to tune in a little bit more, pay attention to signs around you, whatever, and get your life on a more even keel.
Okay. So have these signs and intuition been constant throughout your life? I know you said you kind of like waited a while and then gave into it a little bit, but was that a thing since childhood, or?
Yes.
How did that surface?
Since I was young, I started mostly knowing that I had dreams that would come true. So when I first started having dreams that would come true, it was like I'd dream it and the next day it would happen. And
Do you have any specifics?
I had a dream one night that my brother and his friend walked in my room and said, "Hey, we got a job at ShopRite today." So I woke up and I thought, well, that was weird. That afternoon, I come home from school, my brother and his friend walk in my room and say, "Hey, we got jobs at ShopRite today." And I went, "Oh, that's
Weird.
strange," you know? And I thought, oh my. And then, excuse me, as time went on, I started to have more dreams that were further out, a couple years out, couple weeks, then months, and then years, and things like that. So I just kind of knew, but I didn't know how I knew. It wasn't a lot of fun because my friends would call me names like witch and things like
Really?
that because I
sorry.
knew stuff that was going to happen. They're like, "You witch, how did you know that?" I'm like, "I don't know, I just know." And that's how I got started. And when I found someone that was actually teaching, I went to find teachers. And most of them, when I finally would find someone that was teaching, they'd say, "I don't do that anymore. I don't teach anymore." So I finally found someone that was a teacher and ran a paranormal research group and got involved and started studying. And I studied a lot. I studied a lot of different things. The first thing that I learned was tarot. You know, I've always played with cards. We all play with cards.
Right.
Tarot actually originated, they believe. There's a couple of different belief systems out there on this, but they believe it started from your regular 52-card playing deck, and which was added to, I think, around in the 1500s maybe, or I don't know the exact time frame, but was added to, they added 21 or 22 more cards and became a game called Triumph. I think it was Triumph, which is like Bridge today.
Okay.
And then tarot grew from there because people started to see things in the pictures or think that, hey, this might mean this for you, and then it grew into tarot. And now there's probably thousands of tarot decks designed by many different people, all with different pictures on them, many different things. And that's kind of where it's. So I started with tarot. And when I started teaching different psychic, I used to teach a course called Psychic Sciences. And we'd have everybody, try your telepathy, try knowing, try if you feel something in a stone, or you hold on to something if you feel anything. And it was through there that a lot of people were coming in and saying, "Oh, I went to this reader and they told me things like, if you put $1,200 in this bag, I'll put it in this closet and I'll be able to get you a message." And I was like, "What? Are you kidding me?"
Yeah, that seems a little.
I said, "You didn't do that, did you?" Well, they did. And I said, I would give you a message. And that's when I decided I wanted to be a teacher and to help people learn how to use their own intuitive ability, which, like, everyone can read, everyone can write, some not so well, but everyone can learn to do math to a point. So everyone's psychic or intuitive to a point also.
Interesting. We had an episode with Simona, who I know you're
my friend,
familiar with. Yeah, she's great. And one thing we talked a lot about that I think seems to be your path as well, when she has, or when you have these sort of visions for the future, I'm curious how that affects your freedom on a day-to-day level. To know things that haven't happened that other people aren't aware of, But when you are aware of that and sort of in control of that, does that affect your
Well,
view of yourself?
You're not really in control of it. I wouldn't use those words.
All right, that's fair. Yeah.
So, for example, 9/11 was a horrible, horrible thing that went on. I dreamt that about 20 years before it happened. And I woke up and I was just mortified. And I didn't know that I knew anything. But I started to pray that that wouldn't happen. And when it did happen, I went, oh my gosh, that was that thing I dreamt. My dream was very explicit about planes and crashing and blowing up and things like that in New York. But so it's not control, but I do feel that when I am given something like that, that's a world thing, it's because we can stop it. I believe that when you get something like that, you're meant to pray against it to help stop it. So even with that, if you researched it, you saw that the plans that the terrorists had were actually to do that in the late 80s, in the 90s, and they didn't get it done until the Y2K 2000 passed. So, and I truly believe that a lot of people were getting that message and were praying and were able to stop it.
Interesting.
So that's on the world basis.
Yeah.
On a person-to-person basis, same thing. If I see something that comes in negative, I truly believe I get negative things because it can be changed. And that's my belief system. My belief is that God wants all of us to be happy. There is no, he doesn't want anyone to suffer. So if we see something that would be suffering, if we pray, we can alleviate it. We still have to go through life. We're still going to have loss. We're still going to experience death of loved ones. But basically, he doesn't want us to be unhappy. Right. And even my going into learning tarot and teaching tarot is based on that. I teach it as a healing tool, not so much as a divination, more of this is what's in your energy field right now. You pull the cards, so you pulled them. I didn't pull them for you. So it's definitely in your energy field. Yeah. And if you don't like it, you can change it. That's why you're getting a reading, so that you see what's in your energy field and you say, oh, I don't want that to happen. I've seen people's lives change like overnight.
Yeah, it's interesting. So the you talk about Is dreams the particular place where you feel like you get visions of future?
Yeah, no.
Or is that just how it started?
Anymore. That's how it started. That's how it started. And then, like I said, it started being further and further out. And when I started to study and trust a little more of the different feelings I had or visions I had, then as it got stronger, and now I don't use cards. I don't do any of that. I do it if people want it, because like I said, some people get scared and run. So they're more comfortable with cards a lot of times. And I do teach people because people understand it. And also I teach it, like I said, as a healing tool, because I see that people, the first thing we say is nothing's set in stone and you can change it. And to remove some of the fear that goes along with it. So as I grew with my abilities, I would get messages for people. I see angels. I stopped being scared of seeing them. People sometimes they're like, "Oh, it's great! You see angels, yay!" And I'm like, "Don't think you don't see the other stuff too. You see all of it."
Because a big new church concept, and the new church is our specific branch of Christianity. Big new church concept is the concept of equilibrium, where there's always balance between light and dark, good and evil.
Absolutely.
And so I was hearing you talk about seeing angels, and I was like, in equilibrium, I wonder if she's also seeing the bad things.
Yep.
So
you absolutely see the bad things.
Yes. Yeah. How does that work, and are you able to kind of block that out? Because I feel like that would. I mean, I don't have these experiences, but I'm imagining that would get overwhelming.
I don't block it, but I also don't focus on it. Because whatever you put energy into is what's going to come back. So if all I did was focus on, oh my gosh, the world is terrible,
right? That's
what I'm going to see. Yeah. But if I see it as a wonderful place, as heaven on earth, then that's what I see.
So you've also mentioned your belief in like praying to God, and I'm curious what your religious path has been specifically. Like if you grew up Catholic and then were affected by that. So what's your religion now, and how has it changed with having these psychic experiences?
Well,
if you can put a word to it.
I am Catholic. I was born Catholic, did all the Catholic stuff, raised my kids Catholic. But I've also expanded from that. The more I studied it, the more I understand that if I was able to choose any religion, I would still choose that, because I understand that the laws that God sent down they're good. There's laws by man, there's laws by God. And if anybody really studied that religion, my belief is that everybody would be Catholic, which means universal. Because there's a lot of good in it. There's a lot of bad coming out of it, but a lot of that comes from the humans, not necessarily from the religion. So
you said in a lot of religions and people in religions,
yeah. And I don't believe there's any one religion that's right or wrong necessarily, because it just doesn't make sense for me that God would make all these people that are, that they go and do this other religion when he only wants you to follow this religion. That just makes no sense at all. So that's my thing. So I went, and it's funny because my brother and I have a brother that's 4 years younger than me. His name also is Richard. And he is amazing. When we grew up, he would get up on Sundays and be like, I'm going to church. And I'd be like, I'm going to church too. And I would walk to the Catholic church, and he'd go to whatever church he felt like. He'd go to the Church of God up the street. He'd go to the Gospel church. He'd go to the Episcopal church. He would just go wherever he felt like going. And I thought that was really funny and really interesting.
Yeah, that is cool.
Because that's what he would do. And that helped me to understand some things.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. I'm used to kind of parents directing their kids. Okay, kids, get in the van. We're going to church. But were your parents kind of hands off? And
yeah.
How'd that work?
Yeah. My mom was not into. We went to church by ourselves.
Yeah.
We just found our own thing, and we went.
That's impressive. I feel like a lot of kids. I wouldn't expect that.
Yeah. So then when we had moved, when I got married and had my children, we had moved to a place where there wasn't a Catholic church real close. So I joined the Presbyterian church. I'm like, God's God. I don't really care, wherever I am.
Amen. So have you felt accepted by a Catholic community with these different experiences that you've had or different beliefs that you have?
I will say yes and no. I don't broadcast a lot of it, as I found out that, you're not supposed to believe in this or that or the other thing. But I did have a good relationship with my priest, and he knew a lot of the things that went on. And so that was okay. I mean, I've come to terms with it.
Yeah. So getting into tarot and psychic readings, I think a lot of people sort of have a initial belief when they hear something like that there's dark arts associated with it and coercion of spiritual principles. So how do you kind of address those misconceptions about your practice and your lifestyle?
Well, it's just like you said, there's an equilibrium. So yes, there are people who use tarot to exert their own ego and exert their will and bring darkness to people, or fear. I consider darkness fear. And then there's other people that use it to help heal. And that's what I do, and that's how I teach it. When people come in to learn tarot, the first thing I tell them is that you're not a card reader, you are a healer. When people come for a reading, it's because they're in a flux in their life, and they want some direction. So
some calm.
Yes, and with the way that churches have been, everybody's like running outdoors of the churches now, where we used to go to our church and go to your priest or your pastor or whoever, your minister. Now people are going to spiritualists, spiritual folk.
Yeah, holistic.
So you need to understand that if people are coming to you for a reading, aside from the usual, bachelorette party or whatever, where people just want to do something fun, they're there because they want some help. and they need some help.
Right.
And it's up to you. You've been chosen to help them. And that's the way I teach tarot. And go ahead.
Yeah, do you find that most people come in wanting to have self-healing as opposed to wanting to heal a friend? Because from my belief and understanding, that makes the most sense to me is, having maybe a tarot deck or a psychic next to you to help guide you through a tough spot in your life, or to help figure out a struggle that you're having, in a similar way that a minister could help people through a tough time. But what I struggle with is sort of affecting another person's path who's outside of this immediate scenario, whether in a good way or a bad way. That I have trouble fitting that into my spiritual view, and like how God governs and would allow me to negatively coerce Richard's life if he weren't here, or to heal him even if he weren't here, which is also a struggle I've had with prayer. When people say, oh, pray for me, that's always a struggle I've had of, well, can I really affect their spiritual path positively or in equilibrium negatively? So how often do you get people doing that for other people versus doing it themselves, and how does doing it for other people, both good and bad, work in God's universe?
Okay, so the first thing, I want to tell you a story.
Sure.
About do I affect this person or that person or whatever if I'm praying. So there was a little boy, and his birthday's in July, and he wanted snow on his birthday. Okay? And it lives in a place where you
Is
don't
this a
get
true
snow.
story or hypothetical?
This is something I read, so I don't even know if it was real or not.
Not
but
the
you have
point.
to hear the whole story.
Yeah.
So the kid prays and prays and prays for snow. His birthday comes. That night he's going to bed, and his mom says, "Oh, I'm so sorry that God didn't answer your prayer." And the child goes, "He answered it. He said no." So, we forget that God can say no. If it's not, I truly believe if we ask for things, if it's really not in God's plan, the answer is going to be no.
So one of my questions is, I think you're particularly interesting because a lot of people I've talked to that are into spiritualism don't have a defined higher power.
Yeah.
A lot of the time.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating that you have a Catholic background and a Catholic view of God, at least to some degree. Mm-hmm. So I guess my question is, how do you see God's will factoring into the information that you know? Do you think that's God telling you that? Do you think it's God wanting you to know that and you being told by angels? How exactly does that work out?
Well, I know that when I don't listen to this stuff that comes in, my life gets a little weird and not so good. So
why weird as your choice of word?
Well, I was on a pilgrimage with a church group, and I received a message for the deacon that was on this trip with us, and I thought, oh my. I said, there is no way I am telling him this message. There is no way. What am I going to do? Go up and say, hey, I got a message for you. So it was 3 days, and I mean, it was like somebody knocking on the door. I couldn't sleep, but everywhere I went, it was bam, bam, bam. Karen, tell him this. So finally, I'm like, all right, it's 3 days. I'm not sleeping. I want to enjoy this trip. I'm going to tell him. So I figure I'm going to explain to him that while I was praying or meditating, this came to me, and I'm just going to give it to you. So I go over and I talk to him, and I say, hey, can I talk to you? And he's like, oh, yeah, how are you doing? I was going through a divorce. So he was asking me about that. I go, well, I don't want to talk about me. I kind of want to talk about you. And I said, and I kind of got this message. I gave him the message, and he looked at me and he said, I've been praying about that this entire trip. Thank you so much. And a lot of the times when I don't want to give the information that I get, I find out that it was helpful for the people. So it's odd, but I've learned that if I get a message I'm not supposed to give, they tell me don't give it. If I get one I'm supposed to give, now I just give it. I'm just going to give it, because when I don't give it, I go through a lot of things.
Right.
As for who's giving it to me, I don't always know. I believe that God talks to me for me. I've always talked about they, because it seems like there's a lot. I'm sounding crazy, right? Like there's
kind of like the spiritual, universal,
exactly.
collective, sort of those
exactly
words.
A collective, and so I will use the word they a lot. When I see your guardian angel will tell me specific things, and I will say that to a person. But if it's, I think that it's channeled down from God. I do believe it comes from God.
Whether it's God directly or God through some other thing. So you said guardian angel. Does every person, you see like guardian angels with everybody?
Yeah,
That's cool.
Yeah.
I've never really thought about guardian angels that much. I don't know if you have.
No, I haven't really. I mean, sort of the way I see the connection between the natural and the spiritual world is, first of all, a whole class of study that I've taken to try to understand it. But I think we are present with spirits in the spiritual world, and
Pretty constantly.
Yeah.
All the time.
And in our faith, we see angels not as a separate entity from humans, but just as people that have died and are now in heaven.
Ah, yes.
So that differs our belief from a lot of other mainline Christianity.
We see angels as a different race, sort of.
Yeah. So
same with evil spirits or demons, as people see them. We just see as evil people who have died, and
Wow. Well, that's interesting. Can I say something to that?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Please.
My experience is that, so I call your dead people or ancestors, people that have passed on, I usually call them ghosts. I differentiate with them because they actually feel as if they were human at some point. When an angel comes in, an angel feels totally different, absolutely a totally different vibration. And the vibration is one that has never been, manifest flesh. Okay? And then the different other spirits that are out there feel a little different as well. There's different masters and guides that everybody talks about, and they will feel different too. But angels have a specific vibration to them.
Do demons have that same?
Yes, not the same as angels, but yes, they have. Yes. There's definitely evil people that come through, and there's definitely really positive people that come through too. So my experience, because of what I see, and I have to take it. For me, this is my life, and this is the way it works for me. This is what I see, and I understand it, and it makes sense to me. Is that there's definitely a differentiation between angels, ghosts, guides, demons, ETs, all those things, like it's all. But angels are definitely different than people. Angels did not, so like your grandpa's not your angel, or your great-grandpa's not your angel.
But your immune guardian angel?
Yes. Would be a guide possibly, or a helper, but not your angel.
To try to line up your experience with mine, and you're welcome to continue to tell me that this isn't how you experience it, but we believe that after a person dies, they wake up in what our doctrine calls the world of spirits, which is where everyone goes before they've really made a final choice. And so it talks about in the world of spirits, people often wake up thinking that they're still in the world, thinking that they haven't died, very in touch with still their natural life. And slowly they move through a process of realizing that they're in a spiritual world now, and realizing what they really care about, and sort of working through to eventually realize that they themselves are either choosing to love God and the people around them and go to heaven, and in that transition become angels, or decide that they love themselves above everyone else, and that they want bad for other people, and they go to hell and become what we often call evil spirits or devils. So that's sort of the way we see it. And it's possible, and obviously you know more about your beliefs than I do, it's possible that from our theology, that transition to heaven is such a drastic change in a person that it could appear very different.
Oh, are you trying to like maybe ghosts in your experiences are
people in the world of spirits
in our religion, and people who are fully vastated in heaven or hell are demons or angels.
Yeah, that's
maybe
my,
to draw a connection.
So
drawing a connection out there.
Okay. What I've seen and what I've come to understand is that absolutely people that turn away from God go to hell or go wherever. There also is a cleansing period, which I think is what you were talking about before they decide going to heaven or hell. And that's known as purgatory, which I'm like, why do they give it such a horrible name? Because it's really just clearing from the earth energies that you have with you.
Well, you also mentioned different heavens, and that's a belief we have as well, that there are different sort of societies and communities and levels of heaven, as well as there are levels of hell.
Right.
So that was a cool little point of link there.
So then how... I'm just curious how you reconcile your ideas of the afterlife with your ideas of reincarnation. Is the afterlife not a permanent place, but rather one that you go until you decide to come back?
Or is reincarnation?
Or do you reincarnate over and over again until you finally reach a place where you can then stay in the afterlife?
Or can you choose to be in heaven or hell or reincarnate?
So, I'm glad that you asked me that. Because I believe that you reincarnate until you learn how to be human, all aspects of it. Every aspect of love, every aspect of hate, every aspect of being a victim, every aspect of being the person that victimizes others. And there are people and saints in the Catholic religion that their bodies do not decay after they perish, after they die. Those are souls that do not need to come back again. And so I've seen them. One of the more popular ones, Padre Pio, St. Padre Pio, he died. I love him because he was alive while I was alive. And also I had a miracle I believe he helped with. And they dug him up after 40 years, and he is barely decayed.
Decomposed.
Yeah. Yeah. And now you can go visit his body. And there's a few of them.
So if after being reincarnated so many times to become more fully human, why would a person then go to hell after so many attempts at figuring out?
Yeah. That when you learn all that, you don't go to hell. You go back to God.
So what sends a person then to hell instead of just back into reincarnation?
Their free will.
Oh, so you can choose to give up, basically.
Oh, okay, so continuing the reincarnation process is a choice. Interesting.
The other thing is that you don't have to go to hell forever. It's just one of the beliefs is you could be the worst person in the world, and if on your deathbed you turn yourself back to God, you're forgiven. It doesn't mean your next life's going to be fun, but but you're forgiven. So there's so much of that, and I haven't. You only have one life. You only have so many. At this time. So Karen Tumaz is going through one life. There's not enough time in this life to learn everything I want to learn and to study everything I want to study. But reincarnation I started really looking into because I found out I wasn't supposed to believe in it. So I wanted to know, well, why and where's the research? What's the science behind it? By the time I found out I wasn't supposed to believe in it, I also knew that I believed in and saw a lot of things that didn't necessarily fit in my religion. And I wanted to be sure. I wanted to say, well, am I nuts? That's something that passes through my mind every so often. Am I nuts? I believe in reincarnation. I'm not supposed to because I know I have this great love for God. Like I can't imagine not loving God. And I don't want to do anything necessarily that would be against him. A big thing, I believe, for everybody on earth is learning your relationship with him and going with that, the way he made you. So he made me to have this psychic stuff. So that's where I went.
Do you think that we should, if God made us to have certain tendencies toward good and evil, should we explore both sides of that? Or is there an objective path that would make us happiest? Or that
well,
we
one of
choose?
the things I always say is we don't should on ourselves. So
that's a mantra that I keep as well.
And I think you have to follow your heart. If it's in you and it constantly is knocking and knocking and knocking, not someone else coming saying you should do this, you have this talent, maybe you want to do that, but you feel it in here in your heart. It seems to be overwhelming around you than to follow it.
But what if that's saying kill this person, kill this person, kill this person?
Yeah, what about that?
Do you do that?
I don't.
I don't either.
No, but some people do. I do have clients that come in with that. They know that it's wrong. They don't want to do that. And it's a lot of healing to get them out of that, or to realize that that might not be the best idea. That I believe in destiny. Are there people that come here specifically to do bad? Sometimes I would say, yeah, probably.
So in this terms of destiny and having a destiny to do bad or to have negative experience, who decides destiny then?
Oh, God.
So God creates people specifically to do evil things then?
If you're thinking that you're only created for one life, then that would make sense. I believe that God creates us, gives us free will, gives us choices. And then we circle back to prayer. Because I've seen there's a lot of really horrific things in our world at this time, addiction being one of them. And I truly, truly believe that prayer is the only thing that cures addiction.
Okay.
So moving back to this idea of reincarnation versus, I guess what we would say is regeneration, it's interesting.
Do you want to explain at all what you mean by regeneration?
Yeah. So we believe that the afterlife is basically dictated by your place in the afterlife is dictated by what you love most. There's a phrase, ruling love, and it's what you care about more than anything else. And people that end up in hell, their ruling love is themselves, and that comes out as hostility toward others. Or control of others, or love of stuff, or all sorts of bad things. And people that love God or love other people or love doing good will choose heaven. And so the idea of God's forgiveness is I think seen a little bit differently in our religion than it is in others, because damnation is not God's choice. So in that way, God is always forgiving us for everything. And it's not like, phew, I got his forgiveness, now I don't have to go to hell. It's like, he can forgive you all he wants, and if you still love yourself more than anything else, you're going to choose to go to hell. And so in that, we believe that earth is basically where we figure out what we love, and that it doesn't really change after death. And so your comment on people not needing to be in hell forever, in one sense, sort of philosophically, God doesn't force anyone to stay in hell, but the unfortunate reality is that the people that have made that their love never have any reason to choose anything else. And so, philosophically or theoretically, people don't have to stay in hell. But in actuality, people that have become so selfish that they choose hell have cemented that as who they are and won't ever choose anything else. And so our church does think that, and the way I see it, I think it adds importance to what we do here. And it is, some people do see it as harsh, that like, oh, okay, well, the 80 years I had here and now I have to be in hell forever. Well, a person that is truly that horrible, that has created that evil for themselves, is every day choosing to be in hell. Again, no one's chaining them up down there.
Right.
And so I personally see it really as a point of motivation, to be like, because it's so easy to be like, yeah, this is a problem for me, but like, it's not that big a deal right now. I'll work on it later. I'll work on this in a few years, or I'm working on something else right now. That's whatever.
Right.
That's fine. But really,
now is always the time.
if there's something in us that's bad that we're acting on, it's not like, oh, I'll fix it later. Well, it's hurting us and other people now. So this idea of, where the life we make for ourselves on earth ends up being the life we have for ourselves in the afterlife, I really value as a belief, because it helps me think about the person I want to be forever, and therefore the person I need to start trying to be now.
And we also kind of believe that on earth, these are our bodies, and our spirits are kind of contained in these bodies as manifest, but after death, our spirits are not contained to these bodies. And so on earth, our spirits, are active and are being developed by our choices and our beliefs. And so in every moment and every decision, we are choosing to be in hell or in heaven, surrounded by heavenly spirits or hellish spirits, depending on our actions and choices, kind of. So it's a constant choice to be in heaven or hell while on earth, and kind of deciding who we are. And then that kind of leads to a culmination once we die. And there are different, like, if a child is to die, they aren't cemented into who they are. And so it's sort of a gray area of how old you need to be before your person is a person. I don't know if our religion says anything specifically about that, but you would know that better than I would.
I don't know if it has many specific... I mean, it has like average dates about the development of a full rational mind, because children don't have full rational minds, and our religion is a huge... Yeah, kids. And our religion doesn't have a huge... Our religion does have a huge focus on the rational mind, and the rational mind basically being the bridge between the natural and the spiritual. How being able to decide between, yeah, this would feel good right now, but that isn't the person that I want to be. I compared two things and decided I care more about that, is how we raise our mind up from base, like, animalism to, or selfishness to spiritual life. And like you were saying about, with your view of reincarnation as no one can learn everything they need in one life, we definitely don't believe that heaven is a place where you are now static. People still grow and change. They learn. Their love deepens even more. The thing that is sort of cemented, if you will, is their focus, their primary love. And, like, I love Luke as a friend. That doesn't mean that 5 years from now my love for him won't have changed at all. Hopefully we'll be even closer 5 years from now, or hopefully my fiance, 10 years into our marriage, I'll love her even more. But that doesn't mean I'm loving someone else, or that my love for her can't change. So it's sort of that it's a deepening and fulfilling and expanding instead of a change in direction.
Mm.
Okay, so that was a lot.
We kind of rambled a little bit.
I tend to believe in reincarnation because, like I said, I knew about my past lives. Because I see the souls before they come in. I also agree that we still learn. We learn when we leave this plane, when we leave Earth and we go up. There's all kinds of different spirits in the spirit world, learning all kinds of different things, and that the ideas that come down to Earth for new, anything new, Starbucks coffee, comes from above, comes from the other side somehow. These ideas are brought to us through our spiritual helpers, through God, through whatever. We continue to learn. And I also believe that there's many dimensions, there's many worlds, there's many universes. So I also believe our souls are as old as time, well, even older than time, because time doesn't exist on the other side. So we've gone through so very much. And I agree that each moment we make a choice. Every moment you make a choice. Do I take, I like this pen that my boss left on my desk. I think I'm going to take that home. Well, do you take it home and do you think, you're probably not thinking, well, now I'm stealing. It's not yours to take. You're not supposed to take it, you know. So we're always making these decisions. Right. But the life after life is my understanding, is to help your soul grow more and grow more and grow more until you're the bright star that God created you in the first place. And I think that the more we learn to connect with who God made us to be, the brighter we're going to be. And that is very often choosing love. Choose love. Choose what's going to be the best. Yeah. That's the way it goes. It can be really mind-boggling and confusing, and to think of all this stuff. It's so big, but these are things that I've researched a lot, and I know the things that I see. Yeah. Like I know who one of your major guides is, and I know that because they pop. They pop in. Yeah. It's like, here's this spirit, I'm going to say spirit, standing next to you, that I recognize and wanted me to know that they are here to guide you, to be helping you. And the reincarnation is really something else. So when you talk to little kids, if you really went and talked to kids that are, before they go to school, because then we learn to forget what we remember. I like that. A lot of them will tell you they remember their past lives. They remember when you were, hey, Mom, remember when you were my brother and we were working the field or something like that. And of course, Mom's like, no, I don't remember that. What are you talking about? Get out of here. And it's really strange. I remember my daughter telling me this story. We were down by the Delaware, and she's telling me this whole big story about George Washington. She was 3 years old. She's like, yeah, and they went over here, and they did this, and they went over there, and then they went over here. And I'm like, wow, they're teaching her a lot in that preschool, right? So then I'm like, wait a minute. There's no way they were teaching them that in preschool. Her preschool was in Central Jersey. We're here in Pennsylvania. I was like, oh, I wonder if she's remembering a past life, possibly. So I still, as I said, I'm still a little bit on the fence about it, because I think that we can all link into different things. Because how many people think they're Cleopatra, right? A lot. Right, how many people think they were this person? So I think all that information is available to us. But I also think that sometimes the detail just can't be denied. And whether there's a lot of people that believe, well, that's a negative spirit talking to you. And that's something I always work on. I always ask for help with. Is that a negative spirit trying to trick you? One of the reasons that I understand in my religion, we're not supposed to believe in the ghosts. The ghosts are talking to me, or my dead grandpa's telling me this thing, is because it's the devil trying to trick you. And while I could kind of see that sometimes the information that comes through is so astounding for someone, and they turn their lives around back to God when they weren't with God, that it's always like, wow. I don't know what to make of it, so I just kind of go with it.
Yeah, so there's a book in our faith called Heaven and Hell, which is the just experiences of the afterlife, and there's parts in it that talk about the way that angels interact with people. And it's really fascinating. And there's also warnings about like specifically trying to to conjure spirits.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't believe I do.
Not on board with that?
If they show up and they want you to know something, okay. But I will not. Don't come and ask me to talk to your dead grandpa, because if he doesn't want to talk, I am not going to find him.
Not going to open that door.
No.
Yeah, I mean,
if you walk in and you've
there.
got one with you, and they're like, "Oh, tell him this," okay, I'll tell you. But if you come in and you want specifically, I really don't like to do that. I really don't want to do that.
Why specifically? Do you see a danger there, or?
Because I guess that really is like conjuring. And that's using, I believe that is using your will as opposed to God's will.
Agreed.
So
like
that's why I don't do that. But I'm really interested in where the stories of the afterlife in your religion come from.
So the guy Emanuel Swedenborg, he was a 18th century scientist and philosopher, and he actually spent most of his years of his life trying to locate the soul, and thought he could find the soul in the human body. And in doing so, it sort of brought him back to his Christianity, and he, while reading the Word, started to have spiritual experiences, and would see spirits and see angels and see devils. And so he wrote what he saw for a while, and then started writing what God was telling him to write, and wrote a revelation of new ideas about the afterlife and about our current life and how we should live. So that's sort of
all based on the Bible in a deeper internal sense, kind of.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the origin of our ideas about that. So a lot of the book Heaven and Hell is him talking about like what heaven looks like, how it's structured, how it's organized,
and his association with spirits thereof.
And then his experiences he had while in heaven and while in hell. And yeah, it's fascinating. It's a good read.
It sounds it. I wish that people could see what I see in my head. Because if you could see what heaven's like, it's just so amazing. The colors are so much more vivid than here. Everything is it's just so different.
Yeah.
It's just so amazing.
So one thing I asked Simona, and I want to ask you as well, is why you? Like, why do you think you are more open, or has God chosen you to be more receptive of these things? Why do you think?
I think he makes each of us different. You're going to be an actor. You're going to be a minister. That's just the way we're created. So I believe for this life, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is, because I couldn't not do it. I just didn't have a choice, it seemed. So I don't think, as I said in the beginning, I don't think I'm special. I don't think that there's anything, I just think that, okay, so I do this. So this guy plays piano great. Bon Jovi's a great singer, whatever. That's what I was put here to do. Not that I'm better than anybody else. Absolutely not. But also I'm not worse than anybody else. I just think that that's what he wants me to do. Yeah. So I decided to listen.
Yeah, it's been really cool to hear your psychic practice and your intuition coming with your religious belief and your belief in God, because that's not one, as you were saying, that I usually hear or associate with psychic abilities. So that's been really neat to hear. And I also like how 10 minutes ago or so we kind of brought it back to the base simplicity of follow love, and love is usually the answer, and it's not going to steer you wrong a lot of the time. Yeah, I think it's always powerful to bring it back to something simple like that. And one thing I often like to ask our guests as we're sort of winding down, I know we've been filming for a while here, is what is your favorite basic spiritual belief? Like, what's something that keeps you sort of motivated or spiritually inclined or something?
Just God. I don't know what else to say. That's just about it. Yeah. It's just God. I trust that he's guiding me whether with angels or with teaching tarot or things. I use all those base psychic things that people get drawn to help them understand there's more than any of that. And everything was created by God, so it can be used for good or it could be used for bad. Which one are you going to choose?
Yeah.
What are you going to do with it? So I hope that I make a small dent, in the universe with people choosing to connect with God.
Choosing love.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah, that's it. Love is it.
Any other questions you have or anything?
No, I think I'm good. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
This was a really, really fascinating conversation. It's great to talk to you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's great to have you on. Is there any advice or last kind of word of wisdom you want to give to anyone watching this who might be curious about like mysticism or spirituality or psychic abilities or anything like that?
Yes. Actually, my advice would be to go with somebody you trust. Go with your gut if you're looking for a spiritual teacher, if you're looking for a church, if you're looking for anything. You might try a few and they won't work, and that's okay. But definitely go with your gut. You know what's right for you. I can say what's in your energy field and what seems right, but you will be, you're going to know better than me what's really right for you. So trust in that way.
Cool. Nice.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much. As we're signing off here, do you want to, feel free to give yourself a plug if you want to tell people to go to your website or anything like that.
I guess
shout
I
out
could.
for yourself.
My website is karenangel.com. It's KaranAngel. And it'll give you a good kind of a just base idea of what I do. And I have a center in Bensalem where I do my teaching, and we have lots of fun stuff going on there. Not all psychic things. We really try to reach out to the community. We do a lot of donation nights. You can come out and try something. And it's all geared really to helping you link into your soul that God gave you so you can be connected more with Him.
Sounds great.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks again.
Thanks for watching today. If you like what you saw or had any questions,
if you're listening to the audio only,
feel free to send us an email at spiritablepodcast@gmail.com. Also, feel free to comment below our YouTube video or on our Facebook page, Grand Human Project on Facebook.
Yeah, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Instagram gets all the fun stuff. And go find our podcast audio-wise wherever you find podcasts on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you find them. We're up there. So download an episode and let us know what you think. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time on Spiritable.